Welcome into Hittin Hard with Jon Chuckery here on Locked On Sports Atlanta. Today on the show, yay or nay on Lamar? Can Grissom do it daily? And Falcons free agents that I'd like to keep. It's all next. Hittin Hard with Jon Chuckery, Locked On Sports Atlanta.
This is Hittin Hard with Jon Chuckery, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta. And it starts now.
Hittin Hard is brought to you by BetOnline. We ask you to head to youtube.com, put Locked On Sports Atlanta into your search browser. When you get there, hit that subscribe button. Be a part of our growing community, pushing towards 6,000 folks that have subscribed. We are free and available to download on all of your favorite podcast platforms, including Spotify and Odyssey. Check us out, Roku and Amazon Fire. Yes, we are available on those platforms as well. And then give me a follow on my personal Twitter page at JMCH316. So obviously one of the big topics of conversation in the Falcons offseason is this idea, and let me just say it right from the top, this mythical idea that Lamar Jackson is available from the Baltimore Ravens to potentially be the quarterback of the Atlanta Falcons. Now, let me first answer this question. Why would the Ravens get rid of him? Like, why, when it's so hard to find a quarterback that's just even worth his own salt, why would the Ravens give up on him? They've adapted their system around him and everything else. Why would the Ravens give up on all of that? That's the first question that I have, okay? Why would the Ravens not, at a minimum, franchise tag him? Okay, so let's say if the Falcons are in the market for a Lamar Jackson, okay? That means, number one, you're going to have to pay the Deshaun Watson kind of contract. Maybe not 230, 40 million, whatever like that. But Lamar turned down whatever it was, 160 guaranteed to get 200. So you're going to be in that realm. And then, you give up a whole ton of capital. Because if I'm the Baltimore Ravens, I'm asking for draft picks, I'm asking for cheerleaders, I'm asking for the cheap concessions, I'm asking for everything. Because if I'm going to give up on a franchise quarterback in his prime, I'm not going to settle for just a bag of peanuts and just going to move on from him. I'm going to ask for the moon and the sun and the stars and everything that goes along with it. Now, does it make sense for the Falcons? The answer is no. The answer is unequivocally no. So first off, you give up all of this capital. Let me put it like this, very simply. The Falcons are not a quarterback away from being a Super Bowl team. They're not. And I know what Lamar is. I know how well he's played and things like that. But Lamar Jackson doesn't fix all of your issues. He takes away all of your draft capital that you're going to use. He's going to cost you a crap ton of money. We'll sort all those things out. But you're not a quarterback away from being in the Super Bowl, forget winning the Super Bowl, from appearing in the Super Bowl, probably even the conference championship game, if we're being realistic. So you give up in trade all the capital to get him. Then you put yourself right back into the $40+ million a year quarterback sweepstakes, to where, look, not knocking Lamar, he's won an MVP, but literally he hasn't taken you as far as Matt Ryan has taken you. You know, he's not gone as far as Matt Ryan. He's not appeared in a Super Bowl. He's not appeared in multiple conference championship games. So you pay him a crap ton of money to get back into that, just to have a quarterback that may make you a playoff team, but does it fix all of the other things that are wrong with this team? It doesn't. Now, look, I like Lamar Jackson. And, you know, obviously everybody brings it back to Mike Vick and things like that. I think Lamar is a better, more accomplished quarterback than Mike Vick was. Mike Vick relied a lot on his instincts and never became really a complete quarterback, in his time in Atlanta. Maybe he improved a little bit when he got to Philadelphia. But here's the thing that I'll say, okay? I don't want my quarterback leading my team in rushing. And I know that's a very simplistic way to say it and a very simplistic way to break it down. I want a quarterback who can stand in the pocket and push the ball downfield. What do I always say? What wins in the NFL? Yes, it's good to have mobility and get out and be able to do some things with your legs. But when your quarterback is leading your team in rushing, that's a bad sign. From a physical standpoint, to where he missed a whole bunch of games and he's potentially going to miss games as he gets older. He's not getting younger. He's going to get older every year. You miss games, you miss time, and winning in the NFL is standing in the pocket and pushing the football downfield. Doesn't mean you can't be mobile. Doesn't mean that you can't have scrambling ability. It still means pushing the ball downfield. I have been religious in saying this over the life of this podcast, years on the radio. What wins in the NFL is pushing the ball downfield. And I don't know that Lamar is an accomplished enough quarterback to do all of those kinds of things. He's dynamic. He can get out and run. He can run with anybody in the NFL. That's great. And those guys get banged up and beat up. I remember when RG3 was going to revolutionize the NFL. Cam Newton had a very limited shelf life to it. We say like, oh, Lamar can play for the next 8 or 10 years. Can he? Can he play for? If he's got that kind of style and he gets that kind of beat up factor and he missed a whole bunch of games this year, can he play 8 or 10 more years? That's the reality of this thing. It's not coincidence that the guys who played into their 40s, okay, who played into well past what their primes even were, are Brady, Rodgers, Breeze, people like that. It's not an easy life to absorb those kinds of hits in the NFL and, for lack of a better way to describe it, lead your team in rushing. I can't have those kinds of things. Look, the NFL is a game where you have a very limited shelf life of what your prime really is. You do. For most players in the NFL, you have a very limited shelf life. Can we win a Super Bowl in the next 1, 2, 3 years? I don't think so, even with Lamar Jackson. I don't think he fixes your pass rush, fixes some of the things you got to get fixed on your offensive line, fixes some of the things about your defensive backfield, fixes a lot of different things. Look, I know Jalen Hurts and things like that, he may win the Super Bowl. Yeah, the Eagles have 61 sacks or whatever this year, right? They've got between 60 and 70 sacks. You still have to do those things in the NFL. You can't just sweep those under the rug with your star quarterback. You have to do those things. So, yeah, when we talk about Jalen Hurts potentially winning the Super Bowl and things like that, yeah, it's because they can sack the quarterback 60 to 70 times. We don't do those things. We don't have a dominant offensive line. We can run the football with our offensive line, but we still can't pass protect as well. So from the draft capital to the amount of money that it's going to cost, and it's, again, not being a quarterback away from winning the Super Bowl. It isn't. The Browns went in and thought they had a roster that was ready to win the Super Bowl. They had Myles Garrett. They had the best running back duo in the NFL. They could go get Deshaun Watson because they felt like they were a quarterback away. You've got your defensive line figured out. You invested in all these guys in the defensive backfield. You invested in your running backs. You feel like you're a quarterback away. This team doesn't feel like it's a quarterback away from being in the Super Bowl, winning the Super Bowl, whatever. I say no to Lamar because of all the costs associated with it. I want to talk about my friends over at BetOnline. Listen, betonline.net is your number one source for all of your sports betting information, stats, news, analysis. Look, head to betonline.net today. You take the mobile device. It's really simple to do. Take the mobile device, plug in betonline.net today. And when you get there, you take a look at all of the information that's going to make you a smarter sports wager. Podcast news, you've got all the information there, scores, stats, everything that's available at your fingertips to make you a smarter sports bettor. And then once you have that information accumulated, then you get in on the action. You want college basketball. We just had the World Cup not too long ago. You want NBA. Baseball season's right around the corner. It's going to be MLB season time. You want to get in on the action. NFL playoffs. Everything is available at your fingertips at betonline.net. So head to the website today, use your mobile device, and learn all about how to get in on the action over at betonline.net. Betonline.net is where the game starts. And we want to remind you that you want to make Locked On Sports today your second listen besides Hittin Hard with Jon Chuckery. Biggest stories of the day, instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day available on Odyssey, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcast information from. So, can Vaughn Grissom do it every day? This has been a very big topic of debate since Dansby Swanson has left. And, I shot down the idea that Vaughn Grissom was ever going to spend time out in left field. Oh, he's got the glove. I had people like that were tweeting me and things like that saying, well, he invested in a glove. Okay, that's $65, $75 at Dick's Sporting Goods, okay? And I'm being facetious when I say that, but again, that's no investment. He can shag some flies and stuff like that. But can Vaughn Grissom be an everyday shortstop? Okay? If there is one reason that I believe he can, it's from the guy who speaks highly of him, who thinks that he can do it, who has said that he can develop into an everyday shortstop. Is that Alex Anthopoulos? Nope. Is that Brian Snitker? Nope. Is that Ronald Acuna Jr.? No. It's Ron Washington. Ron Washington has been very steadfast in the idea that Vaughn Grissom could be an everyday shortstop. And I'll be honest with you, given his track record and given the guys that he's worked with and given his baseball insight and acumen and knowledge and everything else along with it, if Ron Washington says he can be an everyday shortstop, he can be an everyday shortstop. Now, here's the thing about the Atlanta Braves. We talked about, when they signed Sean Murphy as, arguably the 1, 2, 3 best defensive catchers in Major League Baseball. They made it a point to let you know with Alex Anthopoulos that they value defense first and foremost over anything else when it comes to the catcher position. Well, Alex Anthopoulos has by and large said the same thing about shortstop. It's not like he doesn't value the bat. It's not like he doesn't value being able to hit. But if Vaughn Grissom can't do it defensively, then Vaughn Grissom's not going to be the everyday shortstop. It'll be Orlando Arcia or somebody else, or, again, the myriad of, kind of low tier free agents, right? Elvis Andrus, guys like that. Because all the top tier guys are off the marketplace. But if Vaughn Grissom can't do it every day with his glove, then he's not going to be the everyday shortstop. And if Ron Washington, who's working with him and things like that, not shagging flies out in left field and all that muckety muck that people were trying to sell me on end of last year, if he thinks that he can develop himself into an everyday shortstop, then I believe Ron Washington. Because if you don't get it done defensively, just like catcher, and I don't want to say that the bat and everything is a bonus and stuff like that, but the Braves have made it clear that they immensely value defense. They immensely value defensive play at catcher and shortstop. So you have to do that first and foremost. Now, look, Vaughn Grissom probably won't be Dansby Swanson. I've thought for 3 years now Dansby Swanson is the best defensive shortstop in Major League Baseball. He should have won the Gold Glove in the pandemic year. He should have. I think it was Javi Baez that won the Gold Glove that year. All of the metrics were on Dansby's side. So while Dansby's a first-time Gold Glove winner this past season, he probably should have been, at least a 2 or 3-time Gold Glove shortstop. He is certainly one of the best defensive shortstops in all of Major League Baseball. And that's the part that will be hard to replace. That's the thing that, Grissom hit and all this kind of stuff. And, he was hitting in the 9-hole and things like that. That's great. But what the Braves value first and foremost is being able to be a good defensive player. And to be honest with you, probably when you talk about, look, it's the old axiom in baseball, right? You need to be really good defensively up the middle, right? Catcher, second, short, center field. If you're really good defensively up the middle, then you're a really good defensive team. You can live with the outliers, the corner outfielders, even some of the corner infielders, things like that, but be really good up the middle defensively. And that's the thing that Grissom is going to have to work himself on. Now, the good news is for Grissom, he's kind of a shortstop by trade, short and third, things like that. So again, he's not completely learning a new position a la left field. He's not learning all of that kind of stuff. He is by trade a shortstop that can play. And look, if you can play short, you can probably play second even at the major league level out there. But it takes a unique and special skill to be a really good defensive-minded shortstop. And that's just not one of those things. That's why I said, for all of Dansby's flaws and his warts and things like that, when you're a 20-homer Gold Glove shortstop, there ain't many of those cats running around on planet Earth. There ain't very many of those kinds of players on planet Earth and in Major League Baseball, maybe in the Milky Way galaxy and on Pluto and Mercury and Venus and everywhere else. So if you're going to play shortstop for the Braves, just like if you're going to play catcher for the Braves, you have to be a very good glove at that position. And if Ron Washington tells me that he's can develop himself into an everyday competent major league shortstop, brother, I believe him, because he's the guy that's worked with all those guys. And if he tells me he can do it, no matter what Snicker says, no matter what Double A says, no matter what Ronnie says, Ron Washington, I'm sold on him. If he says he can do it, then he can do it. All right, I want to talk about my friends over at Built Bar. Listen, head over to Built.com. Listen, new year, new you. You're trying to get in shape, right? You're trying to look for those low-calorie, low-sugar, low carbohydrate types of snacks and things like that, and eat healthier, right? We're all trying to do it, right? It's a new year, and we're trying to get ourselves in shape. Well, try Built Bar and head to Built.com today. You want churro, you want peanut butter brownie, you want coconut almond. They always have new flavors coming online, so you can mix up all the different kinds of flavors out there, okay? And by and large, all of these are 130 calorie, 4 grams of sugar, but a whopping 17 grams of protein. So whether it's the protein bars, whether it's the marshmallow puffs that you want to get into, all of the different types of products are low calorie, low sugar, low carb, but high in protein. And now, besides going to just Built.com, you can head to Walmart or Sam's Club. Yes, head to Walmart or Sam's Club today. If you go to Walmart, go into the pharmacy section, grab yourself a box of Built Bars. Or you can go to Sam's Club and get a 13-bar box, especially of all their flavors, brownie batter, churro. Again, at Walmart, it's the coconut cookies and cream, I should say, double chocolate, coconut puffs. So now they're at Walmart and Sam's Club. So you can either head to the store today or head to built.com and take advantage of all of the things they've got going on there. Take a look at all the different product lines, but stop over at Walmart or Sam's Club and get your Built bars today. Everybody's looking for those snacks out there. Go to built.com, Walmart, or Sam's Club, and they're all available to you. And by the way, we are making Locked On Sports Today your second listen every day besides Hittin Hard with Jon Chuckery. Biggest stories of the day, instant reactions, big game recaps, take of the day, available on Odyssey, YouTube, wherever you get your podcast from. So in looking at the Falcons free agent list that's out there right now, look, there's a lot of guys that are on this list as free agents for the Atlanta Falcons. There are a handful of names that I definitely think would be worthwhile. Now, I would say that arguably Caleb McGarry would be the number one free agent for the Atlanta Falcons that I would like to see them re-sign. The money would have to be right. It would certainly have to be not a real long-term deal, 4 or 5 years, but if you could do 2 for 14, 3 for 21, I would be of that mindset. You know, you're paying a little bit more, and, you know, again, you're not paying top dollar for a right tackle, because for all of McGarry's good that he does, he's a good run blocker. He's, you know, excelled this year. He's had his best season, you know, in his NFL career. He still has limitations in pass blocking and things like that. So Caleb McGarry would be one of the first free agents that I target for the Atlanta Falcons. I mean, he's locked up that right tackle spot. He did a really good job this year. That's a guy I would like to bring back. Couple of other names that I would certainly like to bring back. Rashaan Evans. Now, I didn't look at the final stats to see, but I had predicted that he would lead the Atlanta Falcons in tackles this year, and I'm guessing I was probably pretty close to right on that. I don't know anybody who had more tackles than Rashaan Evans, but certainly Rashaan Evans is a guy that I would like to see back in the mix. Keith Smith is a guy that, if we're going to be a power running team, him at fullback. Lorenzo Carter would be a guy that, when you're talking about rotational pass rushers, okay? Now, I'm not starting probably Lorenzo Carter for 16 games and, you know, 70 to 75% of the snaps for this team, but as a rotational edge player, you could certainly get some value out of him. Now, maybe he's a guy who wants starter kind of money. Maybe he still thinks he can start 16 games and things like that. But I don't necessarily like. I would be willing to move on from Ogundeji if I could sign Carter, draft or sign a free agent defensive, you know, edge player, and then Arnold Ebiketie taking over that spot. I could live with that kind of rotation of guys. Either a free agent, I would still draft a high level caliber, you know, use up good draft capital on an edge player. But I could see Lorenzo Carter being a guy that could be in a rotational mix. Ogundeji, I'm not sure that I don't think that they would cut him, but I don't need to see as much of Ogundeji as I probably would. Now, a couple of names that I probably would not bring back. All right. Number one, Eric Harris. See ya. Hasta lasagna, don't get any on you, okay? That whole group of Fabian Moreau, Duron Harmon, Eric Harris, they've all worn out their welcome. You know, Eric Harris is the last man standing from that whole group. I wouldn't, you know, probably pick him up. I would like to upgrade Isaiah Oliver. Now, look, Oliver played well, you know, did some decent things and stuff like that. Maybe if you give him another 1-year contract kind of deal, I could get him in the rotational mix. But that's one of those things that I would like to see them upgrade at. I think you need, you know, if you sign Casey Hayward, and Casey Hayward is a guy that I would definitely like to bring back. Casey Hayward is a guy that if you can put him at that second corner spot, I would definitely like to see an upgrade at nickel corner. Okay, look, and I know most of this is because of AJ Terrell being out and being injured and things like that, and Casey Hayward for that matter as well. But we were a dreadful pass defense. And I don't think that we're going to instantly go from the second fewest sacks in the NFL to the Philadelphia Eagles and their 60 to 70 sacks. We're not going to bridge that gap. Look, I was hoping for, close to 30 sacks this year, and what it ended up being 22, 23. So yes, it was more than the 18. They barely averaged more than one per game last year. It was 18 sacks in 17 games, 22, 23. That wasn't the step up that I was looking for. But okay, we can build off that. But you have to improve your pass defense. If your pass rush is not going to be there, and you're never going to get to be a top tier defense until you get your pass rush right. Sorry. I mean, again, for the umpteenth time and for the X amount of years, go look at defenses that sack the quarterback. If you can't do anything else, sack the quarterback. If you can sack the quarterback, you can be a playoff caliber team. It's not coincidence that for all of the things of Jalen Hurts, and yes, he's played well and all that kind of stuff, and A.J. Brown and this and that, it's the fact that they are 60 to 70 sacks, on their defense that, has kept them at the top of the NFC. So if you've got to fix your pass defense at some point, you've got to get better on your pass defense. I'm not completely opposed to Isaiah Oliver the way that I was maybe a couple of years ago, but I really would like to see them upgrade. As far as that goes, look, Michael Pruitt, definitely bring him back. Elijah Wilkinson, I'd like to see him not be the starter for next year, but certainly be a rotational inside offensive lineman for this team. I think you have to upgrade at left guard. I think that's the number one spot that you got to upgrade, because I still have a lot of questions about who's going to play center. I'm elite at right guard. If I sign McGarry, I'm pretty good at right tackle. I'm pretty good at left tackle. I've got to fix that, because, again, you can't have two kind of guys stand side by side on your offensive line. Remember that that's what got this team in trouble a couple of years ago. Jalen Mayfield, Matt Hennessy. You can line up a Dahlman or a Hennessy to play center, but you have to upgrade at left guard. So I would like to see, and Jermaine Ifedi, he would be gone, but I'd like to see Elijah Wilkinson get a shot there to be a rotational guy for this team. Damiere Byrd, I'm good with. Kadero Hodge, I'm good with. Some of those low level. I'll tell you one other guy that I would like to see is Abdullah Anderson. And look, did some good things, a rotational guy. And a lot of these guys that we're talking about, let's be honest, they're rotational guys at best. I mean, that's what some of these guys are. There's not that many starters that we are looking at. That's going to be through free agency, the draft and things like that. But Abdullah Anderson is a guy that I think could be a rotational guy. Even guys like Anthony Firkser, guys like that. I mean, like I said, Michael Pruitt. Listen, Michael Pruitt caught more touchdown passes than Kyle Pitts did this year. Just saying. Maybe Michael Pruitt's the unicorn. No, we won't get into all of that. We'll have that discussion at some point here. Olamide Zaccheaus is another guy that I'd like to see them keep. So some of your backup third, fourth string wide receivers, special teams players that are out there, I'd like to see them keep those guys. But I would like to see them keep Rashaan Evans and allow, him, Troy Anderson. I'm not sure if I'm turning over all of the reins to Troy Anderson. He's still got some work ahead of him. But I think Caleb McGarry is the number one free agent for this team to sign. I think he's the number one guy that would lock up that right tackle spot, even if it's just for the short term. But there are some of these role players that I'd like to see back for the Atlanta Falcons. All right, well, thank you so much for making Hittin' Hard with Jon Chuckery your first listen every day. Make sure you make Locked On Sports Today your second listen. Biggest stories of the day, instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day. They're available on Odyssey, YouTube, wherever you get your podcast from. We ask you to head over to youtube.com, put Locked On Sports Atlanta into your search browser. Listen, we're trying to get to 6,000 subscribers. That's that next benchmark that we're trying to hit. So hit that subscribe button today when you get there. We are free and available to download on all of your favorite podcast platforms. So Spotify, Odyssey, wherever you get your podcast from, check us out there as well. Roku and Amazon Fire. Yes, we are available on those platforms to download and obviously leave us reviews for all of these things. And then give me a follow on my personal Twitter page at JMCH316. Back with you tomorrow. This has been Hittin' Hard with Jon Chuckery, Locked On Sports Atlanta.